one quarter down and the data is in for 2026, and there is some good news for first-time home buyers. Opportunity is out there, so let's get into it. Play the music.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time home buyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time home buyers.
What is happening, my How to Buy a Homies? I'm still David Sidoni, and you know what? So far this year, it's been some pretty incredible news for first-time home buyers. And the most recent data shows that you have leverage and opportunities. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with the most recent episodes, I have been in math beast mode for you guys, for all you renters out there, looking to clarify where you can financially win through my best friend, math. And apparently, oh my gosh, you have been listening, because in the last couple of weeks, and by the way, that's after the war started and gas prices went insane, we've had a record number of listeners who are sick of renting and ready to take control of their lives that have reached out to us here at howtobuyahome.com. I mean, huge numbers while all this chaos is going on. They're asking questions, they're getting pre-planning, they're getting coaching, and they're getting connected to local specialized unicorn realtors and lenders. And I have to tell you, this is so exciting for me. I can't believe that what this podcast has become. It's really incredible. I mean, what began 7 years ago as, my passion project, my labor of love, me giving back. And I realized for many people, it was just a cringy dude with dad jokes trying to offer inspiration and motivation through the insider secrets that I had learned and the math so that you could see how to create your own rent replacement strategy. Well, it's blown up into a full revolution, bringing the power back to the people and resurrecting the American dream through education and, of course, the quality service that you deserve. So I have to tell you, all my listeners out there, I can't thank you enough. And let's keep spreading the word. If you haven't subscribed already, well, what are you doing? Let's go ahead. Let's get started on that. And if you are a regular listener and your friends are dejected, demoralized, depressed, thinking they can never do this, share this with your friends. I'm humbled to say that this community is literally changing the face of the economic landscape for many people in the upcoming generations. Because, gang, the system sucks. Fine, we get that. So let's work together and we can all beat it. Today, I'm going to nerd out and I'm going to share all my facts and figures with the latest market updates. And there is some good news in there for first-time home buyers, even though we got this crazy volatility going on everywhere and global economic chaos. Chaos? No, chaos. I said chaos. Now, if you're new here, what's up? Glad to have you. You don't necessarily need to get right into this data right now. You can go to episode 400. There's a 10-episode series, and it breaks down the ultimate first-time homebuyer guide for anybody. It doesn't matter if you want to buy in 3 months or in 3 years. And I haven't mentioned this in a little while, but this is really important. We've got a 7-part series, and it's entitled How to Financially Prepare to Buy a Home. And that starts at episodes 415. 7 jam-packed episodes. These are great. No more guesswork. Get your action steps. Go there and start building things for you. All right, let's start with the first piece of news. This one's crazy. Did you know that first-time homebuyers in 2026 have increased 38% from last year? Yeah, already. It's happening, people. The revolution is happening right now. But do you know what sucks? No one's talking about that. The news today is dominated with one ugly piece of economic news: inflation. Damn it. Inflation is back. It's increasing. And economists and people on the news, they're all freaking out about it. Well, this is a very good place to remind you. When you hear economic news, remember, you are a buyer in this economy. And for buyers, bad economic news is good news for you. Like my boys Run DMC said, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. So not only is the economic news that's bad actually good for you, but housing news. When they report on housing, they're talking about how things are going for home owners. So bad housing reports, that's usually good for you. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Seriously, go back and listen to Raising Hell. Great album. So what's the bad news that's really good news for you with inflation? The Inflation Consumer Price Index jumped to 3.3%. That sucked. And people do not like that. That is a 2-year high, reflecting the higher costs for energy and goods, which, have been disrupted by things that are going on in, the Middle East. Now, look, this isn't the 9% inflation that we all went through in 2022, but since then, the Fed's had a really clear target. They're trying to get inflation at 2%. We only sniffed that around, a hot minute in 2024. And since then, it's actually slowly been getting worse, growing up to where we are right now at 3.3%. The inflation on goods, not bad meaning good, but goods, stuff, things that you buy, it's been going up because of the tariffs, the war, the prices have increased because the businesses, well, what they've done is they're just passing on their new higher manufacturing and shipping costs to the consumers. And if you're sitting there wondering, dude, old guy quoting rap groups from the 80s, how are these higher prices for gas, groceries, and other goods, all this stuff with higher inflation, how is that bad meaning good news for me, dude? Okay, here's how. You're here, which means you are close to unlocking the biggest and best hedge against inflation, home ownership. See, renters get double screwed when inflation happens because the cost of stuff gets more expensive, and so does the rent. I mean, do you think the landlords are going to absorb inflation? Hell no. They're going to take it out of the pockets of their tenants. And according to apartments.com, even though rents were flattening out and even slightly declining at the end of 2025, this February marked the 4th consecutive month of rent price increases. What do you think's going to happen after now that we have this 3.3% March inflation number? Since I'm in 2026 math beast mode, let me drop some on you to illustrate how your home is a massive tool. I'm like, wait a minute, scratch that. Let me illustrate how your home is a giant hedge against inflation. There, that's better. Woo. All right, here's how it works. Back in 2023, home buyers, they had to buy a home with a hefty 7 or 8% interest rate. And of course, everybody out there said, man, those buyers are unhinged. They are completely detached from common sense. Okay, first of all, easy on the mental health shaming. Because by the way, turns out they're not crazy and they weren't getting bad advice and they weren't doing something stupid. This is how a home protects you from inflation. We'll look at this from an inflationary perspective. These buyers were protected because at those interest rates back then, we'll do it at 7.5%. If they put 5% down on a $400,000 home, the PITI payment, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be $3,150 a month to pay for their principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. But for the next 3 years, they're not getting rent increases. And even if we use a low number, let's call it $100 a month, their inflation-protected fixed home payment today in 2026, it's going to feel $300 less because they didn't have to deal with rent inflation. So the $3,150 feels like $2,850. Oh, and by the way, because they bought at that high rate, when rates dropped down to 5.99%, that means they got to refinance. And that payment would have dropped to $2,775. Now, minus the 3 years of rent increases from that, and their payment in 2026, it feels like $2,375. So how much smarter were the people who called the 2023 buyers unhinged and crazy? Because today, that $400,000 home, well, now it costs $435,000. And at today's interest rate, the payment is $2,875 compared to the 2023 people who are feeling a payment that feels like $2,375 adjusted for rent inflation. Oh, and by the way, they also have 3 years of payments that went into a compounding asset of a home. 3 years of payments that didn't go to a landlord. So I'm not saying inflation is going to be great for everybody, but I am saying that if you're on a budget and if things are working out for you, job's still good, savings are still good, a home is the greatest hedge, shield, and protection against inflation. Okay, now let's look at the other pieces of data. We've got home sales, we got the interest rates, we got home prices, and the inventory. Starting with the home sales. Now, these are not the home prices. Sales means the number of homes that are getting sold. The year started out really slow. It was fugly. We were talking home sales falling 8.4%. And then we got to February and they increased 1.7%. And March up 3.7%. So that means people are listing homes are getting sold. So of course, next question, all right, David, what does that mean for the prices? Well, according to Correctl, they have a home price index. And they said that there is some relief for buyers because the home prices, they might be increasing, but they're not doing it everywhere. In the places where they are going up, they're definitely not increasing very quickly. We started the year with the weakest start for home prices since the early 2010s, only a 0.9% increase from a year ago in January 2025. And so far this year, homes are up less than 0.5%, between 0.3 and 0.5%. And some regions, prices are actually dropping 4%, 8%, some places even 15%. Okay, that means we got to get our next piece of data to figure out affordability. It's interest rates. Now, I reported this last year, but the forecast for this year, it's going to be volatile. It's going to be up and down. So basically, for 2026, just run all your numbers at a 6% interest rate. Don't expect any major changes. Nothing is going to drastically affect your monthly payment. I mean, look at this. Even with the war, rates right now are at the high point of the expectations for the volatile interest rate market for 2026. What everyone thought was that rates this year are going to bounce around from 5.9 to 6.4. And 6.4, that's where we got even with this crazy oil crisis. And when you really think a rate drop is going to save you a ton of money, well, consider the fact that it's probably going to be flat and it hasn't gone psycho, even though the world has gone psycho. So always remember the math, how much it actually saves you. You know, a 0.5 reduction on a $500,000 home is literally over $100, right around $100. So if rates drop to 6% and you're like, okay, I'm going to wait till it gets to, 5.7 or 5.6. What are you waiting for? And right now, there are other options, but if you don't talk to the pros, you're never going to find out about them. Like, for instance, buyer-friendly FHA loans, you can get those with 3.5% down payment, and they today are 0.5 point lower than the national average for a conventional 30-year mortgage rate. I'm going to tell you the same thing like I would tell if I was hanging out at a bar and someone said to me, man, what's the deal with interest rates? I would go, nothing, relax. It's not going to affect your ability to buy a home. Here's a list of 37 other things that's going to affect your ability to buy a home this year. All right, let's move on to prices, the next data point. As a listener to this podcast, you know that prices are a direct result of supply and demand, the housing inventory. And the inventory data, yes, it's still overall drastically low. It is a little mixed with what's happening. We're up 3.9% from last year. And so far, 2026 has seen an increase of 7.4% for the whole year so far. And that's according to Realtor.com's weekly housing trend report. But for the week of April 4th, new listings dropped 10%, which was the largest weekly decline since we had that winter storm back in January. Now, of course, this might have to do with the fact that people who were thinking about listing their homes in March were all ready to go, and they got spooked by the new global uncertainty. So again, a little mixed, but in general, overall, we're still way low. And this little pause that's happening right now because of the war, that's a new window of opportunity for home buyers because some people have their homes on the market and now things are freaking out. And according to Redfin, 34.2% of recent home sellers lowered their list price. That's the highest rate going back to 2012. And senior economist at Realtor.com, Anthony Smith, said, quote, "For buyers, the broader picture hasn't changed. More homes are available than a year ago, prices are softening, and mortgage rates, while volatile, remain at their most favorable springtime levels since 2022. Now, again, the country's completely split. So here's some places where you're seeing the biggest price cuts. These are all in Texas and Florida. San Antonio's at 57.9% of listings cutting their prices. Austin had 55.2%. Dallas had 47.3%. Tampa had 45.9%, and Fort Lauderdale's at 44.9% of homes cutting the prices. And these reductions and changes and how prices are moving, It's different everywhere right now. And the good news is there are lots of pockets of new affordability that are opening up. Cotality's report found that 13 states, including the District of Columbia, saw year-over-year home price losses. That's crazy. The three largest year-over-year falls were Washington, D.C. at 3.01%, Florida at 2.30%, and Montana at 1.52%. But as we've discussed, in other areas, inventory is still extremely low, and their prices are going up. So if you're out there doing your research on inventory and home prices, make sure you're not looking at the national statistics. They are a cluster mess of inconsistencies now, since we have different movement in different regions of the country. And of course, that gets us into our last stat that you want to watch very, very closely, and that's housing inventory. Look, I broke this all down before. We're still 4 million homes short. And what's happening right now is there are 1.23 million homes for sale nationwide as of March. Now, that's still a very low number for an entire country. When we have a balanced market, we have about 2.5 million homes for sale. And by comparison, right before the housing crash in 2008, we had 4.1 million homes listed for sale. So 2.5 is a balanced market. 4.1 means, a crash might be coming. We've only got 1.23 million homes. And that shouldn't be a buyer's market. But you know what? In some places, it is. That's one of the secrets where first-time home buyers can take advantage in 2026. Because quietly in this confusing market, even though things are split across the country, inventory rose on an annual basis for the 28th consecutive month, according to Zillow's March market report. So I know you're thinking, dude, what the hell is going on? Are we stalled, or are we seeing an increase in activity that could drive prices up? Are we seeing more inventory and better deals, or is this the beginning of a competitive summer market? Great questions. All right, in a word, yes. Yeah, it's everything. The data's mixed, which is precisely why I've been pounding you with the math, the formulas, the rent versus buy breakdowns for what I've been putting out here on the podcast in 2026. Because in some areas, the deals are going to be real easy to spot. And in other areas, they're going to be harder to see. That is, of course, unless you've done the math of your rent replacement strategy. That's episodes 440 and 460. Because it's weird out there. Zillow is seeing increased activity that I haven't heard of before. The daily average page views, people scrolling through listings, it's jumped almost a third recently. Now, you would think that means there's a whole bunch of people out there buying homes, but it depends on where you're at. So as I've been saying for months, make your plan now. Get after it, because they're up over 30%. Zillow's March market report found that pending listings, that was listings that went under contract, they grew 29.8%. Jumped up to over 280,000 listings. That's the second largest monthly total since May 2025. And before that, since August 2022. And then right after that, according to Redfin, in the 4 weeks ending April 5th, pending home sales actually fell 2.4% year over year, marking the steepest decline in 3 months, driven largely by mortgage rate spikes that are linked to the war in Iran. And what they're also calling stale listing numbers. Those are up 52.2%. That means that many homes of February listings, they sat on the market for at least 60 days without going under contract, making it the highest level in any given February since 2019. Another report says that days on the market, it's also creeping up to a record high. Typical homes, they're spending 66 days on the market, which is the slowest pace for this time of year and all those other records. It is different everywhere. The split's real. The South was overrepresented for markets with significant stale listings. They had 8 cities that had stale listings that were above the national average. The West, on the other hand, had no cities that exceeded the national average for stale listings, while the Northeast and the Midwest, they claimed 3 cities and 2 cities that were above the average metro days on market. You know what I see every time the data comes out like this and it's not crystal clear? When it's confusing and mixed, oh man, people start spouting off again about a crash coming. I totally empathize. I get it. I understand the frustration if you're brand new to this and first-time homebuyers come in and they're like, well, I got to have a crash. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do this. I know that seems like the only hope, but it is not the only hope. The real hope, that's in the math, in the episodes 426, 440, and 441, 443, 457, 460, 464, 469, and 470. Everywhere else in the podcast library, you can go and you can learn about home inspections and negotiations and how to use the internet to buy a home and, what to talk to a lender about and what to talk to a realtor about. That's all there. But the math, it's so important in 2026. And I'm going to put all those episodes in the show notes. Make sure that you get into the math because that will create your own personal motivation to move forward when you see how financially beneficial it is to be a homeowner, even in this crazy 2026. People keep talking about that crash. And the last week, I saw a bunch of articles that reiterated what I've been saying. In the last week, I've seen a bunch of articles that reiterated that low inventory that I've been talking about since 2019, that's going to keep things at bay. I even went deep into that in episode 457. I think I just mentioned that before, so check the show notes for that. I saw a headline that said, people are praying for a crash. Why housing doomers keep getting louder. Well, they're not getting louder because of math and facts. They're getting louder because they're desperate and they just hope that works. Because the article pointed out that this flat market and this split market, that it wasn't the beginning of the crash that people were begging for. And I saw another one that said, quit Googling housing crash, economist says. It's a correction. That's what we've got. It's been a correction. And we don't know how long it's going to last or if it's really going to correct at all. And if that sounds crazy to you, cool. That's par for the course for me. I've been saying things like this with predictions since 2019. And because I've been completely based in the low inventory, I've been able to find the right economists and give you guys the right information. Homies, this is what it is right now. It's been a year of stalling in some places, with some markets even dropping a little bit. But the 1.23 million homes listed right now, that is well below what's needed. And I get it. That's confusing and perplexing and befuddling, this weird-ass housing market. And probably most people right now, they want to wait it out because they think that that's going to be the thing that gets them financially ahead. Mathematically, that's just not the case. And nothing is going to beat supply and demand and make this correction drop off a cliff. So get into the math. Some of you out there, you've got some pretty sick opportunities as a first-time homebuyer this year. And I'm going to end with this one super bitchin' piece of news that I found for first-time homebuyers. I mean, like one of my favorite pieces of news. Georgia just passed a major HOA reform bill. It's going to limit HOA's ability to tack on costly fees and fines to homeowners, doing that with impunity like they've been doing for so long. And many believe the rest of the country could be next. Yeah, baby. It's called SB 406, and it's a game changer. A Realtor.com Homeowners Association report found that 1 in 3 single-family homes, 33.4%, they've got HOAs. And more than 4 out of 5, 84.8% of condos and townhomes, yeah, they've got HOAs too. So this is finally going to protect everyone. Senator Donzella James, a co-sponsor of this bill, was reported as saying this by Realtor.com. For years, I have been a strong advocate for homeowners, and I have heard countless cases of people being taken advantage of by predatory associations. Love you. The senator continued. This legislation represents a meaningful step forward in protecting homeowners by promoting transparency and fairness. It helps ensure that no Georgian is subjected to unjust fees, fines, or the threat of foreclosure without proper oversight and due process. Yes, my people, those of you ready to overthrow the billionaires and bring the power back to the people, I am so excited for you. I can't do what the senator did. I can't create legislation for more democratic society. But I can continue to pass on to you the giant loopholes that I have learned over the last 20 years. There is a way for you to get a W, even though it feels like we're not in control. I can't change the rules of the game, but I could sure show you how to exploit them and how to beat the game within the rules. Go to howtobuyahome.com and you can find the Ask David button and ask me your question. I personally answer every single one. It's not a robot, it's me. I want this revolution to grow, so I'm going to answer all the questions and I'm going to keep coaching and keep educating, keep empowering renters to learn the math behind the secrets of affordable home ownership. Yes, even today, affordability can happen. And I'm not alone here. I've recruited the best first-time home buyer local specialists nationwide, and I can connect you to them, and I'll do it for free, because damn it, that's what you deserve. 90% of realtors out there, they shouldn't be entrusted with the biggest financial transaction of your life. So you need protection. You need elite level service. You need someone who has your best interest in mind and isn't just trying to figure out, oh, I just need to make a quick sale, or I don't even know how to do this. I'm brand new. Maybe I can get a sale out of this person. Grab your unicorn team today. The data points I shared with you today, for most of you, honestly, they're probably not going to matter one bit, because we're in a flat period. It's not as sexy and exciting as buying in a down period, but a flat period is still a good time to buy. Your best decision is to own as soon as you can, getting out of the rent rut, because this low inventory is going to prevent a crash, and the math for renting and waiting it out is a negative sum formula. Start planning ASAP. Get your unicorn team. Join the people's revolution. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.